Roy, when the Indian government was tripping all over itself, men among men, trying to deal with the issue of rape in India, who said, nothing for us without us. States consistently, when faced with the crisis of what it is that the existence of women means in society, when what it is that the material conditions of women are in society, they are never able to engage those women about the things that they want. They want to write policies. They want to say, this is what we will do, and fail to even implement those things because the political will doesn't exist. And the political will that is driven by the organizations women form for themselves that can make those things happen isn't there. So our opening government is like the state. They say they're taking you, but they don't actually let you speak. They tell us that that Kunya and I, we've got BEE, and yet we're still talking about race relations because this means that there is engagement. Problem here is not that we are still talking about it. The fact that we've been talking about it so long, Manika, is a problem, right? Because there is no engagement with the things that we're talking about. The problem is engagement. When you say to Tristan or another young white boy that my life is shit and it's as a result of my blackness, they tell you, you're going to get a job over me. They tell you, you got BEE, you got affirmative action, shut the fuck up, your life is made, you got paid, right? So we don't think that this engagement actually happens. We don't think that was an actual engagement with that point. They tell us that businesses, small businesses, are given lots of money by government and that helps them. Statistics stand that 75% of small businesses in South Africa close and are unsuccessful within the first year. This is as a result of their continuing to be monopolies. This is as a result of their continuing to be Oppenheimer. This is a result of them continuing to be Ackermans, people who stand on the back of 500 years of substantive structural positioning. No, of substantive structural positioning. So that money doesn't do anything for those black people. It only disheartens them to the fact that their real issues, their material conditions are not actually changed. Their availability to violence in this country is not changed. So there, we show you how that money isn't going to help. Then they say, well, what you need is to give blacks money in order to be able to engage things such as BEE and affirmative action. But we tell you that you don't need to give blacks money. You have to get, in order to get BEE, in order to get affirmative action, what you need is political will, what you need is implementation, what you need is a state that is going to work towards fulfilling those things and not packing the top of BEE with their families and their cronies. So we don't think that the problem here is that black women need more money. What we think here is that women need in the first place a voice to be able to say what it is that they want and be heard and taken seriously. But secondly, that the political will needs to exist for those conditions of those women to be changed. They tell us Nkosazana's Zuma is going to go to KZN and start Mursa women's organizations. This is bullshit, right? If it's going to happen two ways, that she's going to improve her life with this money and she's going to start organizations, you're going to have to pay shitloads in terms of these reparations. You're going to have to pay them to more than half of the population. And you can't just pay little bits, it's going to have to be substantive because every 28 seconds in this country, a woman is raped. How much are you going to pay though? How can you pay that? How can you quantify that kind of thing? Because in terms of paying, it means that you have to come at some level to quantifying, and they never at any point engage the way that you diminish the value of women's lives by putting that kind of price on it and absolving the state of having to take moral responsibility and the actual actions that need to take place in order for women's lives to be changed. They don't engage our moral hazard of absolution. They don't engage the distribution of these things the way that they happen in status quo society. Because I can work and then my husband can take my money and drink at the spot when he doesn't even have a job. Three things I'm going to tell you about the perceptions of women in society and how they are further entrenched. I'm going to talk to you about the backlash that women experience so that their lives are worse. I'm going to tell you about how this creates a generation of block and silence. Firstly, the second thing I mentioned, we think that you make women's lives substantively worse. Because what you're going to have to do is, you're going to have to think, like I've already said, about the ways that women suffer. You have to quantify that, and if it's too small, you diminish even further the way that you view women's lives. But we think that what this is going to do is it's going to take up a substantive amount of the state coffers, right? It's going to take up a substantive amount of the money that a country, for example, like Zambia has in order to pay women reparations. What that means is you don't actually work towards you don't have that money anymore to use towards developing that country, towards making the lives of all the people in that country better. You don't have money to make courts that can adequately take on the issues of women, police forces that can actually take care of the issues of women. So what you have is a society that then begins to begrudge these women for taking away the state coffers, which were supposed to be things that are improving their lives. Their taxes, which they consider ought to be helping orphans, etc., which they consider ought to be creating industries, etc., in terms of development. So, what you have in a patriarchal society is a woman who's a wife, a woman who's a daughter, a woman who in many ways is under the lordship of a man. That man, if he begrudges her even more than he is a misogynist, he's going to make her life substantially worse. He has the capacity to take that money away from her, and he makes the living conditions in her life even worse, because men are obsessed with the power dynamic that exists between the sexes. Secondly, we think society already has these big perceptions of women as being money hoggers, as being welfare queens in the United States, of being gold diggers in countries like ours. And when you make the state a sugar daddy, and that gives the man that is a credit card, you entrench these views in society that make sure that women continue to be perceived in these ugly ways, in the ways that have made sure that it doesn't just end at perception. It continues to influence the ways that those women are able to lead out their lives and the trajectory of their lives. They're not going to get a job anymore because they've been paid, right? They don't need it. They got that money from the state. We think you substantially make their lives worse. Lastly, we think you create a blockade in the generational work that women are trying to do. Why is it that women fight? They want to make sure that the possibility of the violence under which they've been subjugated in society doesn't continue to happen. They want to end it forever. They want an equal wage for women, not just 70 cents to every dollar. They want to make sure that girls in the future don't get to live the way that they work. I'm profoundly proud of the